Hi, and welcome to SCW Rewind. The retro review for today is going to be WWE Backlash 2016, which took place on the 11th of September 2016. Believe it or not, 5 years ago since the last creation of the brand split happened. This was the first SmackDown exclusive branded pay-per-view. It was in Richmond, Virginia, which I believe was at the Richmond Coliseum, which held 7,000 in attendance. And of course, some of the main matches involved, and there were Dean Ambrose against AJ Styles for the WWE Championship, as well as crowning the first ever SmackDown Women's Champion and first ever SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Now, I'm your host today, SCW, of course, Steve, and I'm joined by two very good friends on the channel. We've got Anthony from Rated R for Wrestling, and we've got Non-Stop Wrestling Chat, Barry, as well. Guys, how you doing? We'll start with Anthony. How are you feeling?
I'm great. I'm happy to finally be on your channel, doing this retro review for an awesome show that you kind of forgot about, the first SmackDown brand pay-per-view for that brand split, but it was an awesome time period.
Yeah, it certainly was indeed, and it is great to have you on the channel, as well as Barry as well. It's great to find both have you here. Barry, how are you doing?
Man, I'm great. I'm honoured to be on the channel. Also, I'm happy that we're reviewing a pay-per-view that was actually pretty enjoyable compared to, obviously, Anthony giving his WrestleMania 9 that still bugs me to this day.
Yeah, I think I actually reviewed that show twice. I don't know why I did that, but there you go. But we've got Jonesy in the house as well. He says he's excited for this, and he wishes us a good evening as well. And good evening to you as well, Jones. Hope you're doing well, my man. And yeah, we're going to be going through the show then match by match, and it was a special time period as well. Like we said, that the brand split had just kicked in, and SmackDown, it was their first pay-per-view. They come off SummerSlam where they're the dual branded pay-per-view, and coming into this. So what were your feelings? We'll start off with Non-Stop Wrestling Chat. What sort of, like, going to this pay-per-view was you excited about? Was there a match or two that really stood out to you?
Do you know, I totally forgot about most of the matches on this because 2016 seems a lot further away than what it was. But for me, it was the six-pack challenge match and then the main event with AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose that really stood out for me. I was excited for them, but yeah, that's what I was kind of looking for.
Absolutely, indeed. Then, how about you, Anthony?
To be honest with you, like, I forgot, like I was saying before, that Heath, Slater, and Rhyno were the first ever SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I think I was most excited about that because, like, as soon as I saw the match was going to happen, I was like, oh man, they're going to win, and I wanted to see because I really enjoyed Heath Slater at this time period with the whole free agent thing, the whole family is 7 kids, and I need, my kids, I need this job type of stuff. I thought it was really entertaining.
Absolutely, indeed. There, yeah. Can't wait to dive into that later in there. We've got Slam Hub Wrestling, who's with us today. He says SmackDown in 2016 was a golden period. I agree. It was an exciting time there, and everything sort of felt fresh, didn't it, at that point? Like, we hit the reset button, Raw and SmackDown. So many superstars have been called up from NXT, which is going to be exciting to see, because a lot of that roster that was there then is still there now. So it's going to be interesting to see where they were then and comparing them to where they are now, and perhaps seeing if things are better off or not. We'll definitely dive into that as we go towards through the video. But Martin Career is there as well. Says, good morning, afternoon, guys. How's everybody doing? We're doing well, thank you. Hope you're doing well also. And yeah, I mean, let's dive straight into it. And of course, with every good show comes a kickoff match, and this was no exception. And we had Apollo Crews, a smiley face, baby face Apollo Crews, going against the Lone Wolf, Baron Corbin. Of course, he had no king gimmick at this point. He had hair as well at this point also. So it's interesting to see that difference. But the match itself, I mean, it was a standoff kickoff match. I think looking at the match, it went sort of just around shy of 10 minutes between these two. It did have a break in the middle of it, which I think does interrupt the flow of these kickoff matches as well. I mean, we had, I believe it was the Holy Foley for the network was one of them, and the Cruiserweight Classic was the other. But we got towards the hot end of this match. The last sort of 2 or 3 minutes of it, particularly, it really raised the pace. I was quite excited to see how it turned out. Corbin looked like he was going to be receiving the 10 punches in the corner for Apollo Crews, but he managed to reverse that, hitting a knee strike to the face for Apollo. And then we've got the good end of days finisher for Baron Corbin to pick up the victory. And I'm so tempted to say King Corbin every time I say that already. But guys, what were your thoughts with this match? Anthony, I'll go to you first.
It's a decent little kickoff show match. It's just funny, like, again, Apollo Crews, the gimmick he has now compared to when he was back then. It's an interesting change of events there. And Apollo, it's like he's always had the look, like from the outside looking in, he has the look of a really like a star. He just needed the whole rest of the package and more confidence in himself. And he has that now. Back then, he just didn't have it. Especially he was brought up very quickly from NXT at this time period. And then Baron Corbin, looking at him now to back then, it's just an absolutely crazy difference between the two guys. But both guys are just kind of like there. They're not really having a big spot or anything like that. They're just on their kickoff show. I always enjoyed to this day the end of days finisher. I think it's an awesome looking finisher, and the deep six that he does as well. I just I like Corbin. I think he's just a natural heel. You see it in this match, and you see Apollo Crews just kind of doesn't have what he has now. But I just it's a kickoff match. There's not much about it. It was a solid little match.
Yeah, I would agree. It was a solid little match as well. And I mean, looking through it, I mean, of course, at the time, the commentary making a big deal. Of course, Baron Corbin at that point was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winner that year. Of course, that was where he debuted from after WrestleMania 32. Apollo Crews, I believe he actually debuted the night after as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think he defeated Tyler Breeze on his first night on the Raw after Mania, if I'm not mistaken. But Crews had actually come off losing at SummerSlam to The Miz in the IC title picture as well. So, like you say, both were kind of not really in a proper program, it felt at this point. This was just a standard kickoff match, but certainly was fun nonetheless. But Barry, what were your thoughts with this match?
Just like you guys said, it was a standard kind of solid match. It was fun. At this point, I was big on Corbin. Like, I loved his gimmick, his character. He looked a lot better than what he does today. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool kickoff match. Apollo Crews, like Anthony was saying, he was there. He just wasn't really doing that much, it felt like. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a real cool start to the show compared to what we get today most of the time.
Yeah, no, I would agree, because I think because we see as well the potential in these guys at this point as well. Like you see with Apollo, like you say, he's not got the factor yet, as Anthony said there. Perhaps as what we can see currently today, the Lone Wolf Baron Corbin, at that point he was coming off momentum, and of course both have kind of gone up and down the pecking order in the last sort of 4 or 5 years in WWE. So let's have a little bit of a fun twist with this, and let's compare them to today. We'll start off with Baron Corbin. Of course, he's King Corbin these days. He's been the King gimmick now for a couple of years at least. Are we a fan of the King gimmick, or do we think that the Lone Wolf definitely could have stood the test of time had WWE gone with it longer? I'll start off with Ant.
I mean, okay, yeah, like the King gimmick is interesting because it's like there's been done so many times, and if you really buy into it, like a King Booker or something like that, it works, or a King Barrett, it works. And I think for King Corbin, he buys into it, but the booking around it doesn't feel like they buy into it. They just feel like they just give it to him and whatever, let him do whatever he wants. We'll just kind of work it out as it goes. I do like this Corbin better. I just like his look better. I think he's gotten into better physical shape. I like him bald rather than with the hair that he had previously at this time period. But I do enjoy the Lone Wolf character more than the King character, because the King character has been done so much. And Lone Wolf is something that's more unique to him. And even though he's a better heel as a King than he is as a Lone Wolf, so it's kind of pick and choose. But I think he should go back to the Lone Wolf thing, because the King thing is overdone.
Absolutely. No, I think it'd make a good point. And of course, after SmackDown this week, all Shinsuke Nakamura with the crown. Now, I wonder if the transition could go back to that different character somewhere down the line. Barry, what are your thoughts on this?
I hate the King characters. When they do like King stuff, it's just so hokey and just doesn't work. Like, they should have just left that a way back in the 80s, early 90s kind of time. I love the King of the Ring, but I don't like the idea of somebody getting like the crown, putting it on and wearing it and having that gimmick. So I prefer the Lone Wolf gimmick. It works better for his kind of, even look at his Instagram, like the style that he has, it just works so much better. Like, he could be a better heel using that instead of from the King stuff. But like you said, probably going to change it to Nakamura, and we'll get King Nakamura, and that'll ruin him as well. So
let's hope not. Let's hope not. We've got a few comments that have come popping in for us, which hopefully we'll be able to go to in a second. We've got Martin Carrillo here, who says that honestly, Baron Corbin should have been made a bigger deal of back in 2016. I do agree. Although saying that, he did win Money in the Bank in 2017, and of course that didn't end well there, did he? When he tried to cash it in, of course he ended up losing an effort to Jinder Mahal at that point. I think that was not a good look for Corbin at that time period. But Sam Hubbard Wrestling says that Lone Wolf was good. No go away heat back then. Yeah, I would say he didn't have the go away heat back then, but I do like what Corbin brings to the table today. Certainly is an interesting character, but I think, like the guys have said there, I wouldn't mind seeing a transition back into Lone Wolf character. I think that certainly was fresh and different and unique to him. So no, I like the points that were raised there. And of course, as the guys have already said here, Martin Korea agrees that the King gimmick, it feels so generic. So yeah, I mean, that was the kickoff anyway. So we'll go into the main show itself then. We had a video package, and then of course that led into Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan coming to ringside. Of course, Daniel Bryan, general manager of SmackDown at this point. This was during the period that he was retired and couldn't compete in ring. And a big promotion was made at the time of this. Of course, that both of them were promoting the matches for the evening. They said it was like a new era and it was taking things to a new level. We were going to crown a SmackDown Women's Champion and brand new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. We'd never had that on SmackDown at the time. Of course, it was like we said, the start of the brand split. And this led us then to that first match of the night, which was going to be the six-pack elimination match for the SmackDown Women's Championship, which for me, for doing this for the first time of actually doing a retro review, having guests doing it live, I had to pick a six-pack elimination match to do, didn't I? So what I think we should do is we should break this match down into parts. We'll go for the competitors first. We'll go with our feelings for it, and then we'll go through elimination by elimination, if that's okay. So the competitors in the match were Becky Lynch, we had Carmella, we had Nikki Bella, which of course they had history going into the match as well. Carmella had actually turned heel on Nikki Bella, actually on the build-up, which we saw a clip to on the event. As well as that, we had Naomi, we had Natalya, and we also had Alexa Bliss, who had not long been called to the main roster as well due to the brand split. I think Carmella was a recent addition as well during that draft. So what were your thoughts going into the match? We'll start with Barry in this one. You said you were most excited about it. What were your feelings going in? Did you have a preference of a winner, or did you think there was one or two that perhaps would stand a chance?
I think Becky Lynch was always going to be my pick to win this because I remember back then I was like, they have to give it to Becky Lynch because how over she was, but it was just a good match. I was just excited to kind of watch it, see women kind of get in that position when it was fun. Plus, my fiance really loves women wrestling. She likes everybody that was in this match, so it was like a thing for her to sit down and watch wrestling with me. I remember that back then. But now she didn't watch that game with me, and it was just fun to watch back myself.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. Anthony, did you have like a preference of winner going in, or did you think there was a chance one or two could take it?
I went in thinking Nikki Bella was going to take it. Like when I first watched it live, I remember because she seemed to be the most, I guess, I don't know, but I mean, maybe the most credible person to be the first SmackDown Women's Champion. And I mean, she's over when she comes out. She gets a nice reaction when she does come out, Nikki Bella, and she's come back from the neck surgery and all that, and had the issues with Carmella. I thought, yeah, it was for me when watching it live. I thought Nikki or Alexa were going to win, maybe even Carmella. Becky was kind of down the pecking order for me because I felt like they didn't see much in Becky at the time, even though she was over with the crowd. I just felt like they didn't see personally much with her. I felt like them. I'm thinking at it from like if I'm looking at it through Vince McMahon's eyes, I'm seeing who is the person that probably fits more to be the first SmackDown Women's Champion. Kind of carry that was Nikki, Carmella, and Alexa. Especially with Carmella turning heel on Nikki, she had a bigger kind of story to go with. But in the end, Becky Lynch obviously the right choice because of what will go on later on in her career. But I thought the match was like solid, but everybody involved, it's just, it's interesting because you see like how they all kind of end up later on.
Absolutely, indeed, there. And it's going to be a great discussion there to see how everyone has played out. But this match went 14 minutes and 40 seconds. So it was good length of match, this one. Dave Meltzer giving this a 2.25 star rating. I personally think that's a little bit low in my personal opinion, but we can go through the star ratings with these matches as we go through as well. For me, looking at the early part of this match was really well done because there wasn't an elimination for it felt at least the first half of this match. It felt that it was really good pacing. Everyone got time to shine, got their spots. But as we go through elimination by elimination, Alexa Bliss was to be the first one eliminated from this match. She was kind of put in a powerbomb position from the turnbuckle with Natalya holding onto her, and then a blockbuster from the top rope from Naomi to pick up the victory to get that first elimination. What were your thoughts of Alexa Bliss's efforts in the match? Did you think she carried herself well? Start with Barry.
I thought she was just there to kind of get took out at the first point. That's what at this point I wasn't big into Alexa Bliss, but She did do good. She carried herself well. But like I said, I wasn't really a fan of her at this point back in 2016.
No, that's fair enough. And Anthony, for you, how did you feel this first part of the match had gone? And did you think Alexa Bliss was the right one? You said that she was potentially someone that could have been in and around at the end when you watched it live for the first time.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, especially watching it back, that Alexa was like the first person eliminated. I understand as to why. I mean, it's tough because you have 6 women that can all viably be the champion. So who do you eliminate first is a tough decision. Natty obviously in there because she's the veteran out of everybody, so she kind of controls the match. The match works around her for the most part. She's probably leading majority of the match. But interesting that Alexa Bliss, yeah, it was. Now when I was watching it again, I wasn't sure if Alexa had just came up from NXT or she had already won the Raw. Did she win SmackDown first and then go to Raw? Or was it vice versa?
She actually won the SmackDown first. She would go to do that in December. She was actually the one that would take the belt off of Becky Lynch. So, her stock grew very, very quickly on the SmackDown brand. I think they saw something in her. And I think when you looked at this match as well, there was a couple of glimpses you saw with her and Becky Lynch together. There looked like there was good chemistry from them from the off. So I'm not surprised that they kind of went and turned that into a rivalry not long afterwards. But going on to then to the next elimination, and Naomi was the next one to be eliminated. It looked like that when she done a springboard into the ring, she took a forearm from Nikki Bella. It looked like from that point she was going to get pinned, but Carmella managed to actually, I believe it was Carmella that managed to get the pin in there. I'll have to double check that a minute ago. But anyway, Naomi was the one that was next eliminated. Naomi at that point was doing the glow gimmick as well. I'm surprised it had gone that long. Barry, was you surprised that the glow gimmick had gone for like now 5 years?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I didn't think it was been going around for that long, to be honest with you. Like, I can't remember it being here. I thought it was like a couple of months old or maybe a year or two, but it was really weird that gimmick's been still floating around. But her getting eliminated at this point, I liked Naomi. I still do at this point. I think she should be a little bit higher in the card today. But yeah, I didn't really like her getting eliminated here. I think it could have been a little bit, keep it in towards the end, have her and Becky build something with that, but that's just my looking back in the history and moaning about wrestling. So
absolutely, we have to have our nitpicks somewhere. Do you know what I mean? We can't keep it all the same there. But just to clarify, of course, after that forearm, it was actually Natalya that came in and put the sharpshooter on Naomi, who was already out, and that claused for the tap out afterwards there. But Anthony, what are your thoughts of Naomi at this point?
Yeah, I mean, she's always been a tremendous athlete, and you look at her, obviously. Now, the glow, I've always liked the glow gimmick. I mean, I think it's a solid little gimmick. It gets pumped. I mean, if you're into it, it gets pumped. It gets you pumped when she comes in, the dancing, all that stuff like that. The lights. So when she eventually won the SmackDown Women's Championship, she put the lights all over the belt, which was a cool look because it fit the gimmick and everything like that. I thought it was solid from her. And she's always been just a tremendous athlete. Now, where she probably lacks is the rest of the character on the promo side and everything like that, and building storylines around her. They haven't done the best job of it, and that falls on her, but also on creative as well. But, at the time, I think, yeah, she probably should have went a little bit deeper in the match, just because you could do so many fun spots with her, because she's the most athletic person in the match. And I feel like the more women you have, more people you have in a match, keep the athletic people in there until the numbers start to dwindle down, because they offer the most wow factor when it comes to multi-people spots, because they're so athletic.
Absolutely, no, I agree with that 100%. I mean, she did have one spot there earlier on in the match with the springboard to the floor with a high cross body, but like you say, there are other moments you can do other with those in the match too. You get it down to the nitty gritty if she's not going to be your contender. So I think you make a fantastic point there. Natalya was the next one to be eliminated. It looks to be like the old classic TKO kind of finisher there from Nikki Bella, of course, bringing that back there, getting the 1, 2, 3. But not long straight after, Carmella, of course, we said that history at this point, and that feud went to carry on to December. Carmella actually manages to roll Nikki Bella up, so we had a quick fire double elimination. Do you think with the pacing of this match that the double fire elimination worked really well at this point to kind of have a bit of a wow factor, Anthony?
Yes, because of the issues between Carmella and Nikki, it works out perfectly because you get the surprise. So Nikki doesn't really lose, really. She just gets shocked because she just pinned Naomi with a TKO. She gets rolled up quickly by Carmella. So it plays up the story between the two. Now, I don't remember completely how this feud went on after this, Carmella and Nikki, but it does set up perfectly. And then you see Carmella shooing Nikki away, like, get out of the ring, get out, you're done, you're pinned. So it builds up the Carmella heel character, and then it also builds up the feud between the two. So it's a solid way. I mean, it makes the match feel a little bit rushed at that point, but it makes sense in the terms of you're working the storyline between the two, and the heel character of Carmella gets the upper hand on Nikki, just because she capitalized on a moment after Nikki defeated Natalya.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed there. And looking through it as well, I mean, those two, they did go on to have a match also in December at the December pay-per-view, and I think that's where it culminated. And looking at things, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Carmella actually won that rivalry. I could be wrong there, but someone let me know in the comments if I have got it wrong. But Barry, what were your thoughts with this quick-fire double pin at this point, leading us then to the final two of Carmella and Becky Lynch?
I liked it. I think it was the best way to get us out at that point, when it wasn't... They didn't really have... They had Carmella there, but still quite young. She's coming up from NXT, still kind of trying to learn. She obviously was working with Nikki Bella, who was more experienced, but it was cool just to kind of get those two guys out and then go into the end to give Carmella a little bit more kind of shine. It was cool seeing, like Anthony says, like Carmella shooing her away, telling her to get out the ring. I thought that was a cool little spot. But yeah, the worst thing is Natalya, for me, is always just forgettable. Like, I forgot she was in this match completely. I think she's a great wrestler, but I always forget she's there. But
yeah.
the Nikki Bella elimination was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, she's a long-standing one of the women's division, of course, going back, I think you've like 2007, 2008, Natalia. But of course, like you say, there are those moments she dips in and out there. But we go towards the final two then, Carmella and Becky Lynch. And it looks like that Carmella, she gets herself a bit of an advantage after taking a few Bexplexes, but she gets a little bit too cocky at first for a minute. She leaves that arm dangling, gets pulled into the disarmor, and of course we have our first then ever SmackDown Women's Champion in Becky Lynch there. Overall then, how would we actually rate the finish of this match and overall score of the match? Barry, I'll start with you.
Out of 5, I'd give it 3 stars. I thought it was a fun match, good opener, got you excited for the show. The finish was good. Becky was the right person to pick up the win here. Like Anthony says, Nikki Bella probably, everybody was thinking she was going to get it because she was like the John Cena of the women's division at that point. But yeah, it was cool getting Becky to win, and it felt like it really meant something at that point.
It sure did. In fact, she did even have a promo of Charlie Caruso, who I didn't even realize was employed by the company at that point also. And I thought it was a perfect babyface promo at that point as well, because she was more or less like supporting the fans, at that point, saying like, thank you for following me through my journey. It's not just been like in WWE. It's all that time you've given me the support over the years has kept me going. She even made a reference of not knowing how to hold one of these championships, which of course she'd go on there, the last kicker, to actually do it multiple occasions as the man later on. But Anthony, what are your thoughts on this finish and what were your rating of this match?
I thought it was a solid finish between the two. Like going back to the Natalia thing, I think Natalia's just too solid in ring that it hurts her. I honestly think that's the issue with Natalia. But in terms of the finish, I thought it was a solid finish. The heel gets super cocky, but it's the young, brash heel who's just up from NXT. So she makes these mistakes, right? So it's a learning curve. If you can tell the story of a learning curve with that going forward. But Lynch, wily, opportunist, gets the submission on her, puts the disarmer and wins the title. But it's a good way to make the championship feel important from the get-go. Like as soon as you implement the new championship, it feels important coming off the start because you have this match and the stakes feel high, and it's a good way to build new people. Like you could tell, like they had a big investment in Carmella going into this match because they had her set up with Nikki. They have her go to the final 2 of this match, and she loses due to being cocky, basically be a cocky heel. So makes a ton of sense. And Becky's promo at the end, yeah, it's a solid, fun little babyface promo. The fact that she doesn't know how to hold the belt, all that stuff, it's fun little stuff. It fits Becky's character and her humor. If you've ever heard her like in like regular, talking normally like in a podcast, something like that, she has that type of humor like that. The puns, all that stuff like that, calling herself Becky Balboa, those little things, those are little Becky Lynch things that you've heard before from her. So yeah, it's a solid little match. I think Meltzer's been a little bit too tough on it with his rating. I would probably give it like 3 1/4 or something like that if I had to go with the fractional, but 3 1/4 for the show. I mean, for the match, and it's a good way to start off the show.
Yeah, I would have to agree with all of that there, and I think the 3.25 is the right score to give there as well. Because for me, it just had that sense of importance, and like the match, the pacing of it, I thought was very well done there. I do think the eliminations when they start, it does seem to be a bit quickly with some of them, but overall, I really enjoyed the efforts here all around, and I think that it felt important. It was a feel-good moment. It was a great way to kick off this pay-per-view, in my personal opinion. But we do have some comments that have come flying in for us, and we've got Jonesy Chats Wrestling. He says, "Great effort by the women." He thought that the first part of the match before the eliminations was really well done. He thought that it was a bit rushed after that, but it's still a very good match there. And Sam Hub Wrestling as well says that this is a 2016 pay-per-view, but remember when Nikki Bella returned at SummerSlam 2016, the loudest casual fan pop in history of our sports. Well, I must admit, I haven't seen that show in a while, so I would need to go back to watch it over. But of course, as Anthony said there, Nikki Bella, she was always getting such a good reaction, got a very good reaction on this show as well. So yeah, it's good to see. And of course, Nikki Bella coming off neck surgery, it was good to see her back in a WWE ring. But next then, we turn our gears then backstage, and there has been an attack made on Randy Orton. He was due to take on Bray Wyatt later in the evening. Bray Wyatt attacking and actually using a door to actually slam Randy's ankle leg into there. So it kind of more or less damages the idea of that match later in the evening if it's going to go ahead. It seems to be up in the air. But at this point, I mean, obviously, Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, knowing what we know now, we're probably not always the most excited about it when we hear these matches these days. But back then, that felt like a money match. Did it not, Barry?
100%, man. I was excited for it back then. Couldn't wait to see those two guys tie it up. Obviously, they didn't, but I was really excited for it. Compared to today, anytime I hear that they're going to tie it up, I'm kind of fast forwarding through it, not really that interested in it.
How about you, Anthony? It was a lack of fire, definitely.
Yeah, now it is. But like I think I mean, back then it was a cool thing to happen, especially, but then they kind of ruined it later on with the WrestleMania match that they ended up having. But it was fun back then. Everything they did back then was fun between the two of these, and I still enjoy what they do now, what they were doing now. But I think it just went like super long with it. But it's good stuff. I enjoy Orton and Wyatt as a duo, whether they're together or they're feuding against each other.
Absolutely, indeed. There, Wrestling Through Life is with us in the comments below. He said that he has this Backlash ranked at number 7 in his all-time Backlash list. That is available on YouTube, so I recommend a bit later on today, if you haven't checked that video out already, to make sure to go and do so. But he does ask where we would have it. I suppose that's probably something we could leave towards the end of the video. But I think as an early feeler, guys, would you say top 5 or top 10? I mean, Anthony, what are you feeling?
I think it's cracking the top 5 for me. It's a fun pay-per-view, and the importance of it. SmackDown's first brand exclusive pay-per-view for the 2016, split, and the introduction of 2 new championships. And I don't know, everything feels so fun and fresh compared to like everybody feels new. They feel fresh compared to like now where they all feel kind of just run down.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And Barry, yourself?
I agree with Anthony. It's cracking top 5. I think it's just like everything just feels good. It feels new. It feels like they've press that restart button and everything feels fun. Like you're excited to watch wrestling at this point. And like what Anthony says, compared to today at this point.
Yeah, I would agree, though. I think top 5 it's got to be pushing on because, like you both said there, the importance of this pay-per-view, the fact that it was the first SmackDown, everyone feels young baby faces. You see potential everywhere. Where now today with a lot of the superstars, I don't want to say you look and see wasted potential because there's always to turn it around. At this point, Becky Lynch, for example, in the first match we talked about, was someone that was having a good time here, but she kind of fell off the radar a little bit then for the next couple of years afterwards. After she dropped that championship, it all became about other superstars, and then obviously she morphed into the man gimmick as well in 2018, and of course from there it took completely off and arguably the biggest star in the company at one point. So I mean, when you come to that, I mean, some of them is perhaps not fresh faces now, but there's always a way to change around. We mentioned Bray Wyatt there as well. That's when he's in his Eater of Worlds gimmick as well. So, but yeah, looking at it, we'll go on to our next match anyway, and it involves ourselves then a second chance in the SmackDown Tag Team Tournament. So we had one finalist set already. We had Heath, Slater, and Rhyno, who would be later in the evening, and they would be taking on either the Hype Bros or the Usos. Now, it was meant to be American Alpha in this spot, but they were taken out by the Usos actually on the SmackDown, and Chad Gable was actually unable to compete, so they gave these two another opportunity to get into that final. Looking at it, I thought this was a standard tag team match. I don't think it was anything to go home about, but I think it was okay. Mojo Rawley actually took himself out on the barricade area, actually went straight into the barricade. He left it 2-on-1. The Usos managed to take advantage of that, and then obviously managed to pick up the victory by actually Tequila Sunrise, actually, which is a fun finish I've not seen for a while. The single leg crap was done there to pick up the victory for the Usos to get into the final. Barry, what were your thoughts of this match and how would you rate it?
I would probably give it a 2 stars out of 5. It was a standard tag match. It was like just out of the playbook of how you should run a tag match. I thought it was good. I still enjoyed it. I'm not saying it was like a terrible match or anything like that, but it was just a basic standard match. I always thought the Usos were going to get the win here. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool.
Absolutely, indeed. And Anthony, how about yourself?
Yeah, it's basically a match that's just there because for the new heel gimmick for the Usos, right? Like they showed the replay of them hurting American Alpha. I think on the previous Tuesday, they were still babyface at the time. There was the heel turn for them. So you see the new look. It's just a way to showcase them. So they give them 2 matches on the show to kind of showcase the new heel team. And I mean, Usos always been the cream of the crop when it comes to tag teams in WWE. They're always at the top, them and the New Day. And this would start off kind of the run between them and the New Day eventually kind of going forward, where they were just kind of the top of the tag team division, just nonstop and always facing each other, even though they're separate brands now, but they're always facing each other. And, the Hype Bros, I mean, I thought it was a solid tag team, to be honest with you. It was something fun for Mojo and something fun for Zack Ryder to do. So, in terms of a match, it kind of is what it is. It's probably one of the worst matches on the show, if I had to choose. It's just mainly just there, set up the heel team and showcase them for 2 matches.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. Then, like I said, I think with that, that's where the Usos actually turned heel, and they still had the babyface music as well, if I'm not mistaken. At this point, they hadn't changed to what we had now with the penitentiary that we're used to today. So, yeah, it was okay for what it was. Like you say, probably one of the worst matches on the show if you had to. It was given 2.5 stars by Dave Meltzer here, so it's not his worst match of the show, but certainly it was there to hype up the Usos, who would then go into the final later in the show. So then next, then we had the Intercontinental Championship, which I thought was a fun little story of this one going in. Of course, The Miz felt like he'd been unappreciated and overlooked as Intercontinental Champion. He'd been there since the night after WrestleMania. He was taking on Dolph Ziggler, who'd gone on a bit of a losing streak, had lost at SummerSlam for the WWE Championship. Wanted to see he still belonged in there. And I thought that this story worked really well into the match, especially as The Miz had cut that famous, infamous Talking Smack promo with Daniel Bryan, of course. And that played into this match also, because The Miz wanted a brand new contract before the match even going in, saying he can continue doing what Daniel Bryan cannot do. And then, of course, going into the ring, then actually doing some of Daniel Bryan's moves, which I believe that was the first time he did that at that point, doing some of Daniel Bryan's moves to try and get the cheap heat, the heel heat, if you want. And of course, as the match did play on, of course, Dolph Ziggler managed to get back into the match after a lot of work had been done on his leg. The Miz has tried to crawl away on the outside of the ring at one point, realizing he wouldn't get the victory clean. Dolph Ziggler puts him back on the shoulders, puts him back into the ring. The rest seems to be distracted. A bit of spray goes into his eyes via Maurice, and this leads then for the Miz to hit the skull, crushing finale onto Dolph Ziggler, and manages to get the victory. And just to give you a time on this match as well, this match was quite a lengthy match, I thought, looking at it, but it was a 18 minutes and 22 seconds, so quite a lengthy match, one of the longest matches on the show here. Anthony, what were your thoughts on this match? I thought it was quite solid overall. It was actually certainly better than what I was expecting going in, watching this back over.
Yeah, I totally forgot about this feud, and then I just, it jolted me back when I saw the Miz Daniel Bryan thing again. The awesome promo that he cut on Daniel Bryan, just kind of destroying Daniel Bryan completely. But I always enjoyed the Miz when he was with Maurice, because I do love that aspect that you're there with your real life wife, right? So you play up that because you guys are comfortable together, you guys live together, you guys are married. So there's a lot of comfortability between the two and chemistry between the two. And then it always helps with the heel that he has her on the outside. We're in the spot here where she sprayed Ziggler with the eyes, the hairspray or whatever it was that she used. So it's awesome stuff. And Ziggler's always that guy who has a solid match, but just never really does much of anything else other than that, having that solid match. Takes the fall here. Miz, if you hate him, you hate him, but he's one of the best. He's probably like the best IC champion we've had in the past like decade. So what else, what can you say about him? He's so good. He's whatever in the ring. He's kind of just average in the ring, but character wise, it's built around it. And I think the stuff with Maurice works so well because, he's such a good heel. He's got the beautiful wife. She cheats to help him win and all that stuff. And it works out perfectly. And it's a solid match between the two. And obviously Ziggler's so talented in the ring. But again, Ziggler's just one of those guys. He's probably too solid for his own good.
Yeah, probably. To think how Ziggler has only been a two-time world champion, and neither of them were quite lengthy reigns either. So Ziggler, he's a top babyface at this point as well. The cheers that he's got compared to today, you really feel like today Ziggler really the fans have given up on him compared to where he was back then. But looking at the Miz, like you say, he was definitely a top ring technician, arguably Maurice at this point as well. This was one of the hot points of Miz's career right here. But Barry, what were your thoughts here looking back at this match?
I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it back then. I enjoyed it today. I think for me it would be like 3 stars out of 5. It was up there. It was really enjoyable. I always love the kind of female manager outside. Then it just looks cool. If it's a guy coming out, it makes him look a little bit better. Makes them look more important. Especially when they're a heel, it always works better. But the spray finish was really, really cool, and I enjoyed the whole thing. These two guys know each other so well, so they just have like a insane chemistry in the ring. And like Anthony was saying yourself, Steve, is Ziggler's a little bit too good for his own good. Like he knows he's really good, and then like today, nobody really cares what he does. That's why he's in a tag team, but he's still really good, which is a pain.
Yeah, I agree. It's still a pain there. And actually, comparing Dolph Ziggler to now, just go, if you can remember back into your fandom. Barry, I'll start with you. Did you look at that point and still was a big Dolph Ziggler fan where you felt yourself that you wanted to see him get back to that world championship?
Yeah, man, 100%. I've always been a big Dolph Ziggler fan, right up until like a few years ago. I was like, there's a chance that he could get that world championship again. And then I came to the realisation that WWE just totally gave up on him. And I think Ziggler as well has just realised that I'm never going to get it again. So what's the point of me even trying? I'll just cash the paycheck and go out in the ring and do cool moves for good money.
I think you're bang on the money there. Anthony, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. Now, let's go. I'm gonna give it a little personal experience here. I was there the night that he cashed in Money in the Bank and won his first title, right? So I was there. It happened in New Jersey. I was there live, and I wasn't a big Ziggler guy at that point. I didn't really like him that much, but everybody in that crowd was hot for Dolph Ziggler to come and cash in. I think he cashed in on a Broster Del Rio, if I'm not mistaken. So everybody was super hot for him to cash in, and that place went crazy when he won that title. His problem, I've always seen, and I've heard Shawn Michaels say this before, he tries too much to be like Shawn Michaels. I remember one time Shawn Michaels says that every time there's a match Ziggler has, he gets a more popular. Every Ziggler match goes on. HBK does, because people flood his Twitter because he's so inspired by Shawn Michaels. I think he tries too hard. I think he's a tremendous seller of moves, but I think he oversells too much to his detriment. And I think that's what hurts him, because there's always that adage, like, you're too good of an in-ring performer that it hurts you in terms of how you're booked. And I think the fact that he's so talented in ring, he sells so much that he oversells. And I think that's what's hurt him. I've never been a huge Ziggler guy. Obviously respect him, his talent, all that stuff like that. But I think he latches on to certain things too much. And I think he latched on too much to trying to be like Shawn Michaels. And I think he latches too much onto Motley Crue a little bit too much, where it kind of makes him out of touch with certain of the younger crowd and stuff like that. Those things I think hurt him. And the fact that I think he oversells a little bit too much.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I mean, like Barry, I was a massive Ziggler fan, especially around probably the end of 2011, probably to like the 2015 period. I think, especially after Survivor Series 2014, I thought to myself, finally, when he won that Survivor Series match, like, they're going to do it. Finally, he's going to get a big push. Got to that Royal Rumble, and of course, Royal Rumble 2015, we all remember it. Of course, Big Show and Kane, obviously, that kind of corporation eliminating all your favorites out of the Rumble to chorus of boos, to then Roman Reigns winning the Rumble to chorus of boos as well wasn't really a favourable time. And I think from that point I kind of gave up as well, unfortunately. But like you both said, he's a solid worker. Probably does try a bit too hard in places, but certainly Ziggler, I think sometimes we could say perhaps underappreciated, certainly from WWE, I would say, nonetheless. Slamhub Wrestling saying that Miz was a really good looking like a in-ring technician in this one. I would agree. His technical work was solid in this match, and I really enjoyed what he brought to the table then. Of course, this match was good, but actually their match at the following pay-per-view was actually classed as even better by a lot of fans. So perhaps at some point further down the line, maybe No Mercy 2016 will be covered at some point. But Miz definitely was doing some of the best work of his career at this point. Would you agree, Anthony?
Yes, I definitely do. And I think Maurice created that, or helped create the best work of his career. I think, like I said, him being comfortable having his wife there, they live together, everything like that, share a life together. So that comfortableness is there. And I think it helps him be more comfortable. And I think it brings out the best in him. And it did at this point, especially, I think the Daniel Bryan thing was just like, it was lightning in a bottle, which they could never kind of capitalize on because he couldn't compete, Daniel Bryan. But the promo itself was lightning in a bottle for the Miz. And then what even helped him out even more was the Nikki Bella John Cena stuff. So it's like later on, right, that they would have that match at WrestleMania later on. I think that helps him out even more. And I think it's just a culmination. It was a really good year for the Miz.
Yeah, I would agree, especially that WrestleMania match. The build with John Cena and Nikki Bella, like you said, that stuff was fantastic there. And we are back. Are we back? Are we there?
Yep.
There we are. We look to be back. Barry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Yeah, fantastic. What were your thoughts then on the Miz there? Sorry, there. Just before we move on to the next match.
I've always loved the Miz. I think the Miz is a great heel. Like, even today, he knows how to play the audience. He knows people. He knows he's not the best in-ring worker, but he knows his character so well. Like he knows how to make people tweet about him or get annoyed and stuff like that, which is great. And yeah, I think 2016 leading into that kind of John Cena stuff was a real fun year for him, and it was a great time for him. I still think he's good today. Like, maybe not the best in-ring work, but he knows how to get people tweeting about him, and that's the stock for WWE.
Certainly, indeed. There. Well, let's move on to the next match then, shall we? Because we had it was supposed to be Bray Wyatt against Randy Orton. That didn't quite pan out as it was meant to. Of course, Randy Orton unable to compete, and Bray Wyatt was going to be declared the victor. Bray Wyatt, though, said that he wanted the 10 count from the referee so he could see he's won by a forfeit. He did get that luxury of getting the 10 count. Some would argue probably the best Randy Orton Bray Wyatt match we've had in history, but we'll digress nonetheless. And as we move on to that, as Bray Wyatt's going to go to the back, actually, Greg Hamilton actually does turn around and say, actually, instead, we're going to have a no-holds-barred match with Bray Wyatt against this superstar, which ends up being the big red monster, Kane. What were your reactions when you saw Kane was going to be taking the place of Randy Orton in this match? Anthony, I'll start with you.
I was kind of a groan because I didn't remember this going down. Kane versus Bray Wyatt. I mean, Kane's always been solid. He's just a guy who's just like always solid. I've heard, the other wrestlers said he's like super extremely easy to have a match with and work with. Highly respected, obviously. I just was a groan because it's like Kane has already passed his prime. Now you see Kane and you just kind of like groan when you see him. It's like, Kane is back, whatever. And it ended up being a better match than kind of you expected it. But I was so out of it until Randy Orton kind of came out at the end and did what he had to do. But yeah, it's just a collective groan for me when I was like, it's Kane, and I forgot.
Well, it's Kane the legend at this. It's not Kane back in the Attitude Era like the ones in the Reverse Aggression as well. This is a different Kane to then. But like you say, he's a solid, easy worker to work with. Barry, what were your thoughts when you saw Kane was taking the place and we would have Kane versus Wyatt instead?
Pretty same as Anthony. It was just like, that's just Kane coming back. I love Kane because my last name's Kane, so it's quite. I need to be. When I was at school, it was like I was always Kane the wrestler, so I had to like him. I loved him in the Attitude Era 2002. Then here, I hated it when he went back with the mask on. Just didn't feel right. He had the horrible looking leotard stuff, and it was a better match than I thought it was going to be. But still, I was just kind of like, there's Kane again.
I love Greg Hamilton as a ring announcer too. Shout out to him. I really do enjoy the way he announces guys to the ring.
Absolutely, no, he does a fantastic job of that. And of course, he was quite new there at that point as well. So everything just all over felt fresh. And of course, we haven't really mentioned to this point, just before we give, we'll come to it a bit later on, but the commentary team as well, Mauro Ranallo was new to the team as well, but we'll come to the commentary before the end of the video. But of course, as this match does place, there's a couple of nice spots in it. I do enjoy Bray Wyatt's table spot with Kane, where he does the running senton for one. Of course, the Spanish announce table has to be suffering during the pay-per-view. It's not right if it doesn't. Why is it not in the Hall of Fame? I will never know. But seriously though, we get towards the end of the match and it looks like Kane's going to go for a chokeslam on a steel chair, but this is actually changed into a Uranagi. Bray Wyatt, though, is taking a bit of punishment, sort of goes down as well. This is where it leads to Randy Orton coming out, kind of limping towards the ring. His leg is kind of almost bandaged up, casted up, however you will. And as Wyatt sort of manages to get himself towards his feet, he realizes Kane's getting up one side, Orton's on the other. Looks a bit distracted, looking one way than the other. Orton slides in like the Viper that he is, hits the RKO, and then Kane hits the chokeslam, gets the 1-2-3. And of course, Kane is the winner. Now, my main critique with this is that Bray Wyatt didn't win the match because, in my opinion, I think Bray would have done more winning from this. Kane didn't need the win at this point, but it does give the crowd a pop at this point. Does show that Randy and Bray is just getting started. And like you said earlier in the video, this is a feud that's starting to build now towards WrestleMania 33. So, Anthony, I'll start with you for your score rating of this match and final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a 1.5 probably stars. I just didn't feel it. Like it was a little fun match, but I just didn't really feel it because again, Kane is just like a kind of groan for me that they would just swap Kane in here. Randy, again, I like Randy. Okay, so Randy's promos have, if you watch the Austin podcast with Randy Orton, he talks about his promos and Austin does as well. It's always been kind of a meh promo. When he got into the Edge stuff at WrestleMania during that period, that's when his promo started to take off big time. So at this time, he still has those meh promos. I just like how when he hits the RKO and he leaves, he kind of does like he puts the hood on and kind of walks away like with a pose. It's just that same Randy cockiness, like I don't give a damn about anything. I enjoyed that because he's always had that vibe to him where he just doesn't care about anybody, anything that's going on in the company. He does whatever he wants. So I like that. But yeah, he didn't really need to lose this match. Like, what does Kane get from this win? It helps maybe Randy, not really that much in the feud, but I think he should have came out, like he should have beat Kane and then Randy come out afterwards while he's celebrating and give him the RKO. Would have the same effect.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. And Barry, would you agree with the same sentiments?
Exactly the same thought. I don't understand why Kane had to get a win here. It just wasn't really. It did nothing for Kane apart from just another win on his career. Like it doesn't really add anything. And like Anthony says, it would have probably been more impactful if Bray Wyatt was celebrating and Orton comes out and hits the RKO. But again, a gripe that I always have is when a wrestler comes out, they've been attacked at the back, he stoats out and then he costs them the match. Yeah. I'm like, if you can walk out, you could have had the match. There's no need. Ken Shamrock, King of Ring 1999, he came out when he was injured. Just saying.
And if you can hit your finish, I think you could have a match. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, totally. I agree with the points there. Barry, what would be your star rating out of 5?
Probably a 1.5, like 1.75. No, it wasn't really that interesting for me to sit and watch.
No, that's fair enough there. And then actually, we've got Dave Meltzer's one with 2.75 star. I'm going to go in the middle of you because I feel I'm probably being a bit generous, but I'm definitely not as generous as Dave on this day. I'm going to go for a 2.25 star for myself personally. I think the match was okay. There were some nice spots in it. I think the main gripe is the finish of the match for me. And like you guys say, if you can hit your RKO, you can have the match. And couldn't have told a story where the whole match had been based. I mean, there's a lot of this night people attacking the legs. So I kind of feel like, yeah, we're probably seeing the same story play out, but certainly it would have been fun and fascinating to have seen that in a match dynamic, and Bray could have really, could have got a big win on this night because it wouldn't have harmed Randy at this point going in and losing. But I suppose if you like a Kane cameo, this could be for you. But definitely we'll go into the following match then. I know Anthony is excited as hell to talk about this match, but just before we do, there was a backstage promo before the match with Heath Slater and Rhyno. And of course, he felt very, very confident on camera when he was talking about it, bigging up his chances, but he thought the camera had gone off and actually then realised that we realised he's not confident at all. He said that he's eaten something funny. Of course, that leads to, WWE's comedy. Let's just leave it at best at that. But going into the match itself then, we had Heath Slater and Rhyno together then going against the Usos, who had already competed in the evening here. And the Usos looked to be on top for a lot of the match there. Very well told story because Heath Slater as well, he's a free agent. Of course, we discussed that earlier in the video. At this point, he needed to win to get a WWE contract. He wouldn't have been anything, in WWE had he lost this match. He would have been completely gone. So he had to win that as well as the championship. So, but Heath Slater, of course, pulling at the heartstrings, managed to survive everything, gets the hot tag to Rhyno. Rhyno very quickly, though, ends up missing, I believe, a gore going into the turnbuckle when Heath gets adrenaline from nowhere. It's almost like he's Hulkamania running wild there. He hits the tag to come back himself. Of course, manages, looks like he's going to hit a finisher of his own there, gets pulled out by one of the Usos, manages to get himself back into the ring, though, by taking that Uso on the floor out. As he goes back into the ring, he walks into a super kick. The referee looks distracted, though, so Rhyno manages to get back in, hits the gore, and Slater manages to just, stick his arm over the top for the 1-2-3, get that big emotional, free count. Heath Slater's got his job, he's got his championship, and of course, we've got the first ever SmackDown Tag Team Champions. So, Anthony, I know this was that match you're most looking forward to, so I'm going to start with you on this one.
I love Heath Slater, especially at this time period. Now, okay, so Heath Slater, he's one of those guys who understands that he needs to play the role that he's given. And I think that hurts him and helps him. So he's the guy who probably says yes a little bit too much, like R-Truth. Like, yeah, I'll do it. It sounds good. And it hurts him because they know they can just give him whatever and he'll say yes. But he's known, he knows that for that comedy spot that's necessary in wrestling, especially a wrestling TV show, he knows that he could play it. He could play it to perfection, which he does here. The stuff with the kids, hilarious stuff. I always enjoyed it, especially his face-to-face with Brock Lesnar, where, Brock Lesnar, he didn't give a damn about his kids. So, I really enjoyed it. Now, I think it was the right move to put the belts on Slater and Rhyno rather than the Usos. Usos didn't need it because they just turned heel, so they can just keep working that way. Heath Slater, Rhyno was the right call. You got a big pop from the fans. And the fact that they just didn't book it properly afterwards, where maybe they couldn't, how far could you go with the storyline? But, I think they should have just been a longer run as a tag team. Heath Slater should have had a better run in WWE. He's a funny guy, very entertaining. So he played his part perfectly. Now I have the interview at the end. I thought it was funny because he said that this is the greatest moment of his life, except for a couple of his kids being born. Awesome stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And yeah, he said he's getting like a new trailer or something as well there. So yeah. He goes on to the character perfectly, and it's great to see that character development. And I agree with you as well. They didn't really continue that storyline further to what they could have. I mean, Heath and Rhyno once they lost those belts, they kind of faded into the sunset, got drafted to Raw, became the catering crew. It's a shame they didn't quite work out further than that. But Barry, let's first off, let's touch on the match for you. How did you feel with Heath Slater and Rhyno getting the W here, and of course Heath keeping himself a contract in WWE and becoming a SmackDown Tag Team Champion?
The match in general, I just thought was just quite similar to the other tag team match on the night. It was nothing really to be mega excited about, but like Anthony says, Heath and Rhyno always worked really well together. Heath knew exactly what he was going to do. He just made the most of the character that he got, which even though, like on paper, that would have sounded like a really silly character, like this isn't going to work, they're trying to bury me. But I've got kids stuff, and that was hilarious. I still use that line today, which is really good. but it fell off a cliff right after. Like, it really just didn't go anywhere, and it's pretty shit kind of see where Heath and Rhyno ended up. Like, they just didn't really do anything. Like you said, they ended up running Raw and just kind of sitting in the back doing nothing, which is normally what happens with WWE. They get something really good and then they just put it aside and go, I'm not going to use this. I'm just going to focus on something that nobody wants. So,
yeah. It's building something to the next level. It's sometimes getting that hot moment to really get people invested in something. And there's been many times that we've seen this in WWE, but then they don't know to capitalize on once they've had that moment, that feel-good moment there, Heath Slater winning it. Because like you said, that it was similar to the other tag team match, but that moment where he picked up the victory, that was the difference between the two, the big pop, the big relief, because we kind of concluded on a story here and what was next to come from it. And WWE just didn't have that really planned out. And that's where, you get people to a certain level and then it just fades away. If they know what to do to take it to the next level after that, then that could be something that where the superstar can actually benefit becoming a tag team champion. Then maybe the tag team breaks up further down the line. You make Heath then the mid-card champion. You slowly build into becoming a world champion. But unfortunately, that's not the way that WWE seems to book things these days. But still very happy for Slater there. And just to give the star ratings again there, sorry, Barry, what was your star rating for this match?
I'd probably go for a 2 stars, but because Heath got the win, it would have been 2.5. The match itself would have been 2, but Heath and Rhyno getting the win put it up to a 2.5.
I have to agree with that 100%. Anthony, yourself?
I'm gonna give it 5 stars because Heath Slater won the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. But no, I'll go with like a 2.5, 2.75. Yeah, it's all Heath Slater basically. That's all. That's all it.
Yep, that is what it all is there. And of course, just to say that Dave Mutz actually gave it a 3 star actually out of 5 there. So a big moment for him as well. They thought that definitely deserved this moment there. And a couple of comments have come flying in there. Jonesy says he was generally happy for Slater, not just because he won the tag titles, but his character development. Excellent point there. Couldn't agree with that more. And also Slam Hub Wrestling saying they're giving the titles to Rhyno and Slater was a feel-good moment, but sadly the whole thing had a small shell life. And yet again, we could agree with that wholeheartedly there. But just before we move on to the main event there, I just want to quickly just touch on the situation then, because obviously we say about superstars where they were then to where they are now. We know the Usos have kind of got so much better. I mean, I don't think that's even any argument. We don't need to say that. Main event, Jimmy, the stuff that's going on SmackDown right now is just absolutely superb there. So I don't think we need to touch on that too much, do we?
No, they're top notch. Always have, yeah.
They've been on their A game for a long time. So let's talk about the commentary team quickly, because we've not done that as of yet. Marlon Ronaldo, not long in WWE. We had JBL, and of course we had David Otunga as the commentary team. What did you think of this as a trio? Anthony, I'll start with you.
The trio, it's okay. I mean, Otunga I was never a huge fan of on a commentary. JBL is obviously, a legendary commentator, to be honest with you. I always enjoyed him. Whatever issues they had between each other, Mauro and JBL, obviously that's probably why I think that's why Mauro left the company. Mauro Ronaldo is the best wrestling commentator since Jim Ross. I would have to say in WWE. Tremendous. Makes everything feel real, important. Some of his stuff is outlandish, which he has that, the same thing as Jim Ross, where some of his stuff was like outlandish, where he would yell and the by God and everything like that. So it works well. It's a different style, but I think in terms of legitimacy and making things feel important, making things feel real, making things feel grand, Mauro Ronaldo's the guy. I think he won Commentator of the Year a couple times from Dave Meltzer. So he's just a tremendous asset to the company. Sucks that he's not there anymore and it didn't really work out. But I thought he was just absolutely tremendous on commentary.
No, I have to agree with that. And of course, that will transition nicely into the main event, because I think Marlon Ronaldo was a key reason of what elevated this main event to make it even better than what it was. But Barry, what were your thoughts on the commentary trio?
The exact same. Like, I'm just sounding like a parrot pretty much. Yeah, everything just the whole team was good. Marlon Ronaldo was probably the best guy that was there. Obviously there was stuff between like him and JBL and stuff like that, but I enjoyed all 3 guys. I thought they would put on a good shift for this pay-per-view, and it elevated most of the matches to be a little bit more enjoyable when you're listening to them kind of talk about what's going on.
Yeah. Absolutely. I actually want to give a shout out to David Otunga, actually, because I've not always been a fan of his commentary work, but I think he had a solid night on this night. I think that he was good with some of the things. Like you said, everyone did their job in elevating things up the card here. So I actually was a fan of this trio together. Just before going to that main event, Slam Hub Wrestling just did mention quickly there. Remember when the Headbangers were part of this mini tournament for the tag team titles? Do you guys remember that as well?
Yep.
Barely remember that one. Yeah,
barely. We're going to go on the network straight after this just to go and check out the Headbangers in the tag team tournament. I think that's what we need to go and do. But thanks for the comment there. But then it's main event time. It is arguably the biggest match on the show, and for me, it felt very important. It was Dean Ambrose, the WWE champion, defending against AJ Styles. AJ Styles had come off of beating John Cena at SummerSlam. Of course, that was a massive deal. He then proclaimed himself to be the face that runs the place. That was AJ's role in WWE now. And of course, he said that he was the person to kind of look up to. He was almost playing the role model gimmick, if you want, in that kind of heel fashionable way. But Dean Ambrose said that, no, SmackDown, it's not your house. It's not the house that AJ Styles built. This is the place for the fans. And this is the WWE champion's place, which was him, which built them nicely up until that pay-per-view. But of course, there was the ring rope incident as well, where AJ's just hanging on the ropes for about 10 minutes as well, with Dean Ambrose just patting him on the shoulder as well there. But going in then to the match itself, this is a long match here, but definitely worth checking out. And I think the pace of it is fantastic as well. 25 minutes and 1 second this match actually lasted between these two. And Dave Meltzer actually gives this a 4.25 star rating, by the way, just to show that it's definitely his match of the night. These two have just got great chemistry together. It feels a nice slow burner, burns itself. The pace is slowly going up as the match goes along. I like the fact there's some really cool couple looking spots in this match. Particularly, I like the catapult that AJ Styles goes into the actual turnbuckle from the outside, from the ring rope open. I think that's really cool. There's also a really powerful drop kick when AJ's hanging on the ring rope. It's just really impactful the way that it's almost like a baseball slide, but AJ just goes flying hard to the floor. These two go into the crowd as well, come back into the ring. AJ earlier on in the match had a lot of control, and it felt that AJ, a lot of big deal had been made about the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, that he'd won that and all of his history and stuff elsewhere. AJ just couldn't get the job done. Even with the calf crusher being in for a long time, he couldn't get the victory. And at that point where he just thought to himself he was going to be put in the dirty deeds, he manages to push Dean Ambrose into the referee. And then that actually leads to where the referee's down for a second. We get a kick to the groin, a good old-fashioned low blow. What a way to finish off a match there. Get the Styles clash there as well. AJ Styles, 1, 2, 3, becomes, for the first time ever, WWE World Champion at that point, because they have added the world in there specifically, even on the tweets at that point. And this was a big deal. And of course, the fans, they actually were, some of them were quite unsided with the idea of AJ winning. Dean Ambrose, even though the babyface wasn't actually getting cheered the whole way through this match, there was kind of a bit of a mixed reaction going on. So this for me was a fantastic match. I really enjoyed it from start to finish. Arguably my favorite match of the card as well. Barry, what were your thoughts of Dean Ambrose versus AJ Styles, and of course AJ Styles becoming WWE champion for the first time?
For me, I think it just went like 5 minutes too long. Like, I don't know if that's what you guys would say as well. Just maybe like to put it at 20 minutes, it might have been a little bit better. It was a great match. Like, I'm not saying it was bad, but AJ getting the win was cool. I loved everything in it. It put me in a Dean Ambrose, John Moxley like binge for the past couple of days after I watched it. But yeah, I just remember how like everybody was like, "Oh, AJ's not going to win this. It's like Dean's going to get it, obviously, because he's like the guy that WWE want to win." And when AJ got the win, it was a big pop. I remember popping when I first watched it, but I really enjoyed it. I think it was cool. The moves that you mentioned were probably the highlights of the match. But yeah, it was just a cool match. When AJ won, it was cool just to be like, oh, like AJ's got the belt in WWE, obviously from like TNA, he was in WCW in Japan. It was so cool kind of seeing him like in all the different kind of companies as well. But yeah, I thought it was my match of the night, and it made the show. It built up to an actual important main event at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the importance there, like you say there, Backlash actually taking all the matches before there to get to this main event, and you just felt this is really important when it comes here. We've crowned other champions, we've built other storylines, created further angles for other shows, but this is the money match between your two top guys right now on SmackDown for this championship. And like you say, AJ Styles has only been around as well since the Royal Rumble in 2016 to get in that position to become WWE champion in 9 months. I mean, you think how many superstars have won the championship quicker than that? I can only think of Brock Lesnar instantly off the top of my head. Even Kurt Angle, I think, took 11 months or something like that to win the championship. AJ did it very, very quickly. Anthony, what were your thoughts of this match and with the finish?
I'm extremely biased because AJ is like my absolute hero. But I want to talk about the catapult spot. Okay, and so AJ saved that. Like, this is how good a performer AJ. I think AJ is like the best performer on the face of the planet. Maybe just Ospreay and Omega probably come the closest to him, but he saved that catapult because the catapult, he didn't have enough, I guess, force behind it as to jump and hit the top of the post. So he just ran himself shoulder first into the post to kind of save the spot and take a massive fall. The drop kick you were talking about, the force that was hit, whether it was coming from Dean Ambrose coming in super hard or if it was just AJ taking the bump that well. Tremendous stuff. The guy's the best performer I've ever seen since Shawn Michaels. He everything he does looks so crisp, clean. His sells, everything is so perfectly done from this guy. I don't think I've ever seen him botch anything, to be honest with you. And if he does, it's like so minuscule that it makes it even feel more real. I don't know what it is, but the guy's just so tremendous. Now, like, can you think of there's not that many builds better than AJ Styles. He debuts, he has this Jericho spot to kind of prove himself. Then he immediately goes into a program at Reigns. After that, he goes into the program with John Cena, or the first match, and then he wins WWE Championship, and then continues his program with John Cena. I mean, what a build, and it's so perfectly and well done. You got to give credit to the booking team and how everything was done. But AJ's a heel is very, very good. The face that runs the place, beating John Cena, bringing the headband out, putting it over his head on his entrance because he wore it around his arm. It's just great stuff, and it's a vindication of a man who has traveled the world, performed at the highest levels, been the best wrestler on the planet, and he gets his crowning achievement here. I mean, he could honestly just retire after the John Cena stuff and been fine. He's not doing anything else because the build was just so tremendous, and it's like I said, vindication of a man who is the consummate professional and the guy who he's the face that runs the place. I mean, I'm just a huge AJ mark, so I give this one 4.75 stars. There's a comment about the TLC match they had later on. I think that was a better match. I think it was a more fun match. I give that one a 5 star. This one a 4.75, but I'm just a huge AJ Styles mark, so that's what it is.
Absolutely, indeed. And just to say, Stan Hub did actually give that comment saying that the TLC match was way better. It was a very good match, the TLC match, but this one also was a very good match in its own right there. Barry, what would you give this rating?
A 3.5. Like, I just think it went on a little bit too long. There was a few lulls in the match, but don't want to upset Anthony too much, obviously. He's a big AJ fan.
Massive.
I love AJ as well, but his WWE work, no for me.
That's fair. I mean, for me, I'm a big AJ Styles fan as well. He's my favorite wrestler still to this day at this moment. So for me, I really popped so hard when AJ won that championship. It really meant a big deal at the time. And still going back to watch it now, a bit of me still popped now. I felt really special just watching that. And it just makes me think, looking back at it, I mean, do you think that AJ Styles at this point should still be in the WWE Championship picture? We'll start with Anthony.
Yeah, I think so. I think they just gave him obviously the tag team titles just to make him a Grand Slam champion. So that kind of gives him the statistics to be kind of a Hall of Famer at that point, right? To eventually induct him. But I think he's got one more title run in him. I think he could possibly win a Royal Rumble if he stays around long enough. I do think that somebody else will probably win this year's Royal Rumble. Maybe he gets a shot next year if he's still around. But I think he has one more title run in him. He's had highs and lows to his WWE career, but the fact that he's just been such a good performer, I think, offsets a lot of that. And he's a guy, he said it himself, he's a soldier, he's a company guy. You tell him to do something, he's going to do it to the best of his abilities. Again, that hurts guys, that helps guys. I do think he needs to have a program with Roman Reigns eventually again, heel Roman Reigns. I think they'll have the match of the year if possible. And I think he does have one more title run in him. And I think he should be in the title picture sooner rather than later.
AJ Styles to SmackDown, the next draft. You heard it here first. That's what we want here, I think, today, coming from that. But Barry, I mean, would you echo those sentiments as well? I mean, AJ Styles in those 5 years has won everything there is to win. I mean, surely he has to go down, even if it's, you say, some of his matches outside of WWE have been better. We have to acknowledge that AJ Styles has to be one of the best in the modern era to actually lace the pair of boots in WWE.
No, 100%. He's probably the best wrestler in WWE at the minute. Just for me, I prefer his kind of older stuff.
Yep.
But he's still got great matches. Like this one was great. He always puts on a great show, and he should be. I don't think he should have ever came out of the WWE title picture. He should have always been there because he's the best that they've got. Everybody loves to see him, and he gets wrestling fans and casual fans to be like, "Wow, this guy's really good at this."
Absolutely, indeed. I really think he could help Raw if they would have actually put him back in the top end of the picture. I think that would actually really help that show right now. But we're going to the comments quickly as well. Jonesy Chats Wrestling leaves one there for us. Great match to crown a new WWE World Champion AJ Styles, who is the best performer in WWE. And he says that this was Ambrose's best singles match in a long time, probably since the Triple H match of Roadblock. I think that's a fantastic point that you make there, Jonesy. Dean Ambrose. What were your thoughts with Dean Ambrose at this time? Because for me, Dean Ambrose, of course, he'd been champion since Money in the Bank. Of course, he won the Money in the Bank and cashed in on the same night. And of course, things after that didn't really work out for Dean Ambrose. I don't know what it quite was, but I don't know if it was. I mean, he spoke heavily on his on podcasts about it previously. But what, in your opinion, do you feel could have made it better, Anthony?
To be honest with you, I think what hurt him was the interview he had with Stone Cold Steve Austin on the network, where Stone Cold they were off, and it felt like Stone Cold buried him, but I don't think he had the intention of it. It was just an off interview, because just the way Ambrose is probably as a person and his personality. I don't know why, but I'm a bigger Dean Ambrose guy than I'm a Jon Moxley guy. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just AEW in general, but I like Ambrose better. Now, funny Jonesy brings it up, that roadblock match. I love that roadblock match because it felt as if Dean Ambrose became the bigger star than Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns was the guy chosen to face Triple H at WrestleMania that year. And I think that was, it shows a testament to Dean Ambrose, even though he was working that corny WWE style that he worked, because it's totally two different wrestlers. You see Moxley and Dean Ambrose, completely two different guys. The stupid, rebound lariat, the weird looking punches and back fists he used to throw. A lot of stuff looked hokey in WWE, but he overshadowed Reigns at that time period. He did. And he should have been the guy who got the main event. He should have won the title at that Royal Rumble in 2016 instead of Triple H. It should have been Dean Ambrose, because when Dean Ambrose came out in that Royal Rumble, he got the biggest pop, or one of the biggest pops, and everybody wanted him to win. And that roadblock match, obviously, I just think, it just didn't work out. I think the kind of domino effect was that interview you had with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Obviously, it was inadvertently, but that's just the way it went down.
I have to 100% agree with all of that. And of course, like you say, the roadblock match there, of course, Ambrose at that time was on a hot build with Lesnar to WrestleMania as well. Of course, the match itself didn't kind of turn out to what we want it to be. But I think there's a lot of those moments where, Ambrose had those moments again. It picked up to a certain point and it just completely dropped off, which was just a shame to see. But Barry, what are your thoughts on Dean Ambrose then before we close things off today?
I really like Anthony says, I prefer Dean Ambrose to Jon Moxley. I don't know why.
It's weird, right?
It's the same work. He's doing the same stuff, but Dean Ambrose, I'm like, oh, I'll watch this. And Jon Moxley, I'm like, just don't get it. But everything that you guys says makes sense. It was that Steve Austin interview that just killed his like just, and it was, I don't know. I think it was just because he came across as a little bit of an ass to Austin, and everybody was like, in real life, he's just a little bit of a pain, and that just killed him from there. And I don't even think he's even came back from it since, because everybody still talks about it. Like, remember that time he was on there and he was a pain, but Dean Ambrose was better than Jon Moxley. That's the point of what I'm trying to say.
It's what we're doing now. We're talking about that interview again. It's the thing that comes up, isn't it? So yeah, it does still stay with him to this day. You couldn't be wrong there at all. We have one more comment just before we go to our final grade of the pay-per-view. It says, Slam Hub Wrestling, the feud with AJ Styles was the only positive about Dean Ambrose's WWE title reign. The Dolph Ziggler feud was hard to invest in. I would agree, actually, that it was hard to invest in, but I don't know if it's because it was against Dolph Ziggler, because I don't know how I would have felt with AJ Styles and Dolph Ziggler as well. Barry, how would you have felt?
I pretty much agree with what's just been said there. I don't think there's nothing else you can really say. I keep sounding like a parrot every 2 seconds. Just going, I agree with what you guys are saying, but I agree.
That's fair. Anthony?
Yeah, I think AJ makes the feud, to be honest with you. And I think it's Ziggler. Yeah, he's just a guy. Like I said, Ziggler before is just like, he's too good for his own good, and he's just, I think it's some of the stuff that he does is a detriment to himself because they book him that way. But yeah, the Ziggler stuff it didn't really hit. I don't know what it is, because it feels like it's just Ziggler so stop and go. It's not like all up and down. So I think that's what hurts it.
Absolutely, indeed. There. Well, just to say that, let's get our final grades for the pay-per-view then out of 5 stars. So Barry, we'll start with you, and to give any final thoughts you wanted to give about the pay-per-view.
The pay-per-view was fun. If you've not checked it out, you should go check it out. I'm going to give it a 3.25, just over a 3. I don't think it was good enough to be a 3.5, so 3.25. But everything felt fresh. Everybody felt good, and it got you interested to keep watching SmackDown. It done what a pay-per-view of like Backlash and stuff like that has to do, compared to today's product. Get my last dig in there.
Yeah, no, totally agree with it wholeheartedly. Anthony, yourself, my man.
It's gonna be close to a 4 for me. It's a 3.75 for me if I had to give it like a fractional thing. But it's just, it feels fun. It feels fresh. Everybody feels so lively, rather than now they're all kind of just drawn out and kind of like zombieing around. Because like WWE's kind of wore them down. But at the time, it's fresh. SmackDown's fresh. The titles are fresh. The feuds are fresh. The superstars are fresh. Everybody looks so energetic. Everybody looks like they're having fun. And that's what you got to kind of come back to. I don't know how you recreate that. It's like almost impossible to try to recreate it. Happens organically. And you just felt it here. You felt the fun aspect of the entire thing. Everybody felt fresh. Like I said, everybody felt energetic. Everybody had a pep in their step. Everybody's trying to prove themselves because they want to be the better brand. And it's that internal competition that you can make But you can't make it. It just kind of happens because it's been around for a while, these brand splits, and they just never really worked out. In the beginning, 2016, it was a solid brand split. They caught a little bit of lightning in a bottle a little bit. They just kind of floundered it, to be honest with you. And I think WWE just wears their superstars down, and that's what you see now.
Yeah, absolutely. I could agree with that more. And SmackDown 2016 at the time, it's seen as one of the best eras of SmackDown. So I agree wholeheartedly with what you both said there and what it takes from a pay-per-view. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. And again, I highly recommend, if you've not seen it or you've not seen it in a while, go back and check out Backlash 2016. And yeah, honestly, it's a highly recommended pay-per-view. And I agree with the sentiment of what the guys have got to say there. But before we close off today, I want to say a big thank you to both of you for coming on the channel. Anthony, Barry, it's been great to have you on. Thank you to everyone as well that has been getting involved in the comment section as well. And of course, once the video has finished up, if you want to leave more comments as well, look forward to interacting with you. If it's your first time watching, please like and subscribe as well. All of those things, it goes a long way to really helping out the channel grow as well. But before we do go, we've got 2 more fantastic channels that we need to plug. So Barry, please plug your channel for everybody here today, where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me pretty much everywhere: TikTok, YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, Facebook. I'm literally everywhere. So just put Non-Stop Wrestling Chat or the NWC show in, and my face will pop up.
Absolutely, indeed. They does some fantastic podcasts as well, including an interview recently with Sabu as well. So make sure to go and check out. And of course, reviews coming on all the shows as well. Always great passion. Always good to watch your stuff there. And Anthony, yourself as well, give us a plug.
Yeah, Rated R for Wrestling. You know what it is? It's pretty much just the YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. It is what it is. But it's just the YouTube. I'm dropping reviews all for every show, WWE and AEW. Daily news, Monday through Friday, 7:30 p.m. Just going through the new rumor mill, the dirt sheets, and just kind of giving my opinion on stuff. I got the topical videos. Check out my problem with AEW video where I just trash AEW completely. I got 2 more opinion videos coming out this weekend, early next week. And I got Backlash predictions. We're going live right after this as well. So make sure you tune in after we finish here. Jump over to my channel and watch that prediction for Backlash, WrestleMania Backlash, because Barry and Steve will be on that as well. And there you go. Rated R for Wrestling.
That is literally where we're going in a minute there, and Joe took the words out of my mouth. So literally as well, they are in the description, the links as well to the channel. So you just click on the links, hit the subscribe button. You can go straight to them right now. But that's all from us anyway. Thank you for watching. And just got to say, we've got West Coast Popcasters saying, great watch, guys, from Zax. Thank you, Zax, for checking out the video. Really do appreciate it. Thank you to everyone else as well. Have yourselves a great day. You've been watching SCW Rewind, and we'll be back with another retro very, very soon. Take care. Have yourselves a great day. And thanks as well to Anthony and to Barry for coming on the channel. Take care. All the best.